Council that are daily violated.
Occupied by Westerners and their satellites. They're doing everything within their power to stop developing countries acceding to the helm of this repressive political instrument wielded by the West to fight against those who are not to their liking. Another issue is the link within the resolution between the ICC and the UN. It does nothing for the credibility of the UN. The panegyric resolution under the GA's consideration stopped reflecting reality long ago, including because showing the true state of play in the text is simply impossible because of the implacable position of pro-ICC activists. This is what the ICC has degenerated into. And we do not intend to live with this text, even in its frozen form, any longer. We don't want the GA to remain hostage to idealistic views, which have been refuted by reality over the course of the ICC's 20-year decay. We demand to put the draft resolution to a vote. We call on all states which are not indifferent to genuinely combating impunity, who are in favor of equality and the sovereign equality of states in particular, to join us in voting against this resolution. Thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation for his statement and now invite the observer state of Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. President. In all of 2022, across all conflict areas around the world combined, around 3,000 children were killed, 3,000 too many. In 3 weeks, Israel killed 3,600 Palestinian children in the Gaza Strip, more than all the children killed in all conflict areas in a year. Of the 8,800 Palestinians killed so far, more than 70% are children and women. Nearly all are civilians. Is there anyone here, anyone with a shred of humanity and decency, that thinks there is any justification for that? Anyone here that believes these numbers are possible if Israel was not targeting civilians, or at the very least, conducting indiscriminate attacks? The rules of international law came in response to tragedies we failed to prevent. We remember the names of these tragedies. They are the names of towns, cities, provinces, forever etched in our collective memory as open wounds, as stains on humanity's conscience, as reminders of what happens when the worst occurs and the many remain silent. In that list, Gaza's name is in bold. It appears several times: for the decades of military occupation, for 16 years of blockade, for 5 wars, and now more than ever, for 3 weeks, where the Gaza Strip has been besieged and bombed with no regard for the life of 2.3 million Palestinians who live there. The international community has failed those who were killed. It is failing the besieged, the wounded, the sick, the displaced. But thousands of lives hang in the balance. They can still be saved. There is no way to describe what Israel is doing in the Gaza Strip as anything else than war crimes. Let me reformulate. There is no way to describe what is happening as anything less than war crimes. If you recognize these acts are committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack against the civilian population, these are crimes against humanity. If you recognize they are committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national group, then they are genocide. These are the choices: genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. Which one does any country here wants to try and justify? Is there any country still ready to evoke unconditional support for Israel while it is committing these atrocities, while it is occupying, colonizing, besieging, killing, and maiming. As member states of the United Nations, you pledged unconditional support to the UN Charter, to the rule of international law. Every nation has to choose where its loyalty lies. What is clear is that support for Israel in this war is incompatible with that pledge, with your obligation to uphold international law. International law, as a leading humanitarian NGO puts it, the humanitarian rule book has been thrown out, and polite pleas from politicians to minimize civilian fatalities are naive at best, and at worst seem blind to the unimaginable horrors already taking place in Gaza. International law is the standard against which all our actions are measured. Condoning double standards can only undermine and jeopardize the credibility and rule of international law. No exceptionalism for Israel, and no exception for Palestine and the Palestinian people. You know how what is happening in Palestine now is possible? One wonders, looking at these images, how is this possible? Not for one day, not for two, for days and weeks now. Live on TV screens being broadcasted around the world, massacres taking place. You know how it is possible? Read the Rome Statute. It has all the answers. It states, determined to put an end to impunity for the perpetrators of these crimes, and thus contribute to the prevention of such crimes. Impunity leads to recurrence of crimes. 75 years, not a single Israeli leader or commander or soldier has been held accountable for the crimes committed against the Palestinian people. Not one. We joined the ICC almost 10 years ago and still await for justice to be delivered. There were countries to oppose us joining the ICC. There were countries to oppose the General Assembly seizing the International Court of Justice. How can they explain why Israel can never be held accountable in any form or any forum? This is not what history taught us. It taught us that our best chance against horrors is for the law to be upheld, for justice to be ensured, regardless of the identity of their victims and regardless of the identity of the perpetrators. That there is no justification whatsoever for war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide. None. The Israeli permanent representative stood in the Security Council and placed a yellow star on his jacket, evoking the Holocaust, while at the same time justifying the bombings that are killing Palestinian civilians by the thousands, children by the thousands. No one can instrumentalize the Holocaust to justify atrocities. No one. We honor the victims of the Holocaust and all victims by never justifying the killing of innocent civilians, by upholding international law for all. The Holocaust was one of the worst horrors humanity ever witnessed, and with other horrors led us to elaborate the very rules that are being breached today. The Charter, the Geneva Convention, the Universal Declaration for Human Rights. It led us to adopt the Rome Statute 50 years too late and build a court with a universal calling, not for one group against another, but for all humanity. Are we not part of that human family? Are Palestinian civilian lives less sacred? Does anyone here agree with Israel that we are subhumans? During each statement delivered here, every 5 minutes, a Palestinian child is killed. When we say every minute counts, we mean it. It's the difference between life and death for hundreds of people, for thousands of people. Palestinian families have lost 10, 20, 30, 40 of their relatives, killed en masse, several generations at a time. Some have disappeared from the face of the earth. You have families. You have grandparents and parents and siblings and children and grandchildren. Think of them. And then think of a single Palestinian family that have lost all of them, or of the child that survived all of the rest of his family and who has to go through life with that reality. Hundreds of Palestinian families have lost more than 10 members of their family. Nothing can justify this war going on for a single minute. Nothing. We have 2,000 Palestinians under the rubble. We can't reach them, can't save those who could still be saved, can't bury those who were killed. A mother said she could still hear her child under the rubble. She will never know if he could have been saved or not. She will never know. Never again means never standing idly by while atrocities are committed. It means never justifying such atrocities under any pretense or pretext. It means standing up to them and standing up for those enduring them. The General Assembly adopted a resolution grounded in morality and legality, calling for an immediate, durable, and sustained humanitarian truce, for upholding international humanitarian law and the protection of all civilians, for humanitarian access and aid to the Palestinian people throughout the Gaza Strip, for release of civilians held captive, for stopping and reversing forced transfer of population, for accountability, and for peace. We appreciate all those who voted in favor of that resolution and call on them to spare no effort to ensure its implementation. And we call on those who did not vote in favor of this resolution to review their untenable position. We appreciate every effort to get humanitarian aid in. We appreciate every effort to allow to save lives. But the only way for us to address this catastrophic situation underway is to stop the assault immediately. We call on the prosecutor who made an important visit to the region in the midst of this unfolding tragedy to uphold his mandate, and all states to help ensure accountability. We need your unconditional support to civilians, including children, to the humanitarian personnel performing in impossible conditions. 67 of UNRWA staff have been killed. Many doctors, many rescue teams have been bombarded. Many hospitals, many schools are under the bombs. There's no safe haven, no safe place in Gaza. People are asked to go south, and the south is under the bombs. 40% of those killed were killed in the south. Don't believe the lies. There is nothing called an evacuation order to protect civilians. Israel has admitted in this memo of the Ministry of Intelligence that the goal was the forced displacement of people outside of the Gaza Strip, outside of Palestine. The same goal pursued over 75 years. We have 75 years of experience to know Israeli goals. It is not to protect our civilians. It has never been to protect our civilians. It has always been to dispossess and displace our people. This is an unlawful order. Nobody should justify it. The protection follows the civilians. It's not the civilians who run after protection. They should be protected wherever they are. This order is a death sentence for many who cannot leave where they are. There is no shelters, no infrastructure to receive them. There is not a single safe place in Gaza. We need your unconditional support to the wounded and the sick, to the law, to humanity, to a reality where no Palestinians are killed and no Israelis are killed, where our rights are no longer denied, where families are reunited in life, not death, where we are all able to live in peace and security. Only one path can lead us there. No one should obstruct it. All should help us on it. It is the one we identified when we joined the ICC with 3 simple words: justice, not vengeance. Thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished representative of the Observer State of Palestine for his statement. We have heard the last speaker in the debate on this item. The Assembly will now take a decision on draft resolution A/78L6 entitled Report of the International Criminal Court. For your information, the draft resolution has closed for e-sponsorship. I now give the floor to the representative of the Secretariat.
Mr. President, I should like to announce that since the submission of the draft resolution, and in addition to the delegation listed on the L document, the foreign countries have also become co-sponsors of A/78/L6. Albania, Andorra, Argentina, Australia, Austria, Barbados, Belgium, Belize, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Botswana, Bulgaria, Cabo Verde, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Denmark, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Estonia, Fiji, Finland, France, Gambia, Georgia, Germany, Ghana, Greece, Guatemala, Honduras, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Latvia, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Madagascar, Malawi, Malta, Marshall Islands, Mexico, Montenegro, New Zealand, Nigeria, North Macedonia, Norway, Paraguay, Peru, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Korea, Republic of Moldova, Romania, Samoa, San Marino, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Slovakia, Slovenia, South Africa, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda, Ukraine, United Kingdom, United Republic of Tanzania, and Uruguay. If any other countries wish to co-sponsor A/78/L6, please signify by pressing the microphone button. I see Gabon, if the delegation of Gabon turn off the microphone button unless there is any other change. And I see Congo, thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the Secretariat. A recorded vote has been requested. We shall now begin the voting process. Those in favor of draft resolution A/78/L6, please signify. Those against? Abstentions.
The General Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/78/L6 entitled Report of the International Criminal Court. Will all delegations confirm that the votes are accurately reflected on the screen? The voting has been completed. Please lock the machine.
Ready? The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 115. Against, 6. Abstentions, 31. Draft resolution A/78/L6 is adopted. Before giving the floor for explanations of vote after the vote, may I remind delegations that explanations of vote are limited to 10 minutes and should be made by delegations from their seats. I now give the floor to the distinguished delegation of Brazil.
Mr. President, as I mentioned during the debate, the difficulty to achieve consensus for the first time in this annual resolution highlights the need for us to reflect on how we may overcome the current pressing challenges faced by the International Criminal Court, rather than simply disregarding them. And this is why Brazil has chosen to abstain. Achieving universal adherence, addressing concerns related to partiality, selectivity, and double standards, ensuring effective state cooperation, fostering coherence within the international legal system, and rectifying geographical imbalances within the ICC's institutional structure are some of these critical challenges. It is essential that the ICC conducts a thorough self-assessment of its current activities as outlined in its annual report, addressing these and other concerns to further its noble mission of ending the impunity for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. In closing, Mr. President, allow me to reiterate Brazil's unwavering commitment to international law and international justice as underscored in my remarks during this debate. I thank you.
I should like to thank the distinguished delegate of Brazil, and I now invite the distinguished delegate of Israel to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Israel was an early advocate for the establishment of the International Criminal Court. However, Israel has decided to abstain for the reason it has expressed in previous years when it disassociated itself from this resolution. As a democratic state based on the rule of law, and as the nation of the state of the Jewish people, we remain committed to ensuring that the perpetrators of mass atrocities that deeply shocked and conscience of humanity are held accountable. In that context, Israel has already stated that it has launched a national investigation in relation to the barbaric and ongoing crimes committed by Hamas against Israeli children, women, and men in a murderous terror attack that started on October 7th, 2023, and will seek to hold those responsible to account. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished delegate of Israel for his statement. I now give the floor to the distinguished delegate of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my delegation chose to join the states that voted against the draft resolution and the states that clearly expressed how dismayed they are from the unprecedented politicization of the performance of the ICC. My country was among the states that effectively participated in the Rome Conference in 1998 and contributed in an important manner in the drafting of the statute of the court. We were among the first states to sign the statute of the court. However, the stumbling performance and the selective approach by the ICC since it was established was the reason for not signing the statute, despite the fact that the work of the committee was simultaneously aligned with some of the most heinous and serious crimes committed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and occupied Palestine. The record of the court was full of failures of betraying the victims of the Iraq and Afghanistan invasions, as well as the violations by Israel, the victims of Abu Ghraib, among others. Today, 25 years after the adoption of the statute of the court, we became confident that we were right to take that position against the court and not to ratify its statute. Mr. President, it is truly regrettable for us to see the fact that the that the court has been taken hostage by directives from Western states, including from some Western states, including the United States, that have ratified the statute, and to draft decisions and legislations to obstruct the work of the court. We all remember the ASDA, the Act to Protect the servicemen of the United States, known as the Lehigh Service Law. Have these states rediscovered the court, or along with their Western allies decided to redefine the court by turning it into a tool to bring pressure to bear and to bring coercive diplomacy in the face of certain states? These states are, by coincidence, African states. What a coincidence. Most of the countries that were targeted were African states, as if those gross violations are a trademark of African leaders. This has happened despite the fact that history taught us otherwise. History taught us that the most heinous crimes committed in Africa were perpetrated by the West and continues to perpetrate it against Africa and the peaceful people of Africa. Things did not stop there. The court has turned recently, or the speaker says, started issuing subpoenas on demand, international subpoenas on demand. And this is a new service. These are new customer services. And even if these subpoenas were to face senior officials from non-member states, this is against the rules of international law on sovereignty, personal and otherwise, agreed upon by customary law and confirmed by the decisions of the International Court of Justice. In full view of the world and on TV screens, we witness an act of genocide that continues against a whole people in Gaza. Where is the criminal court while all of this is taking place? The court decided to remain silent or only to make declarations. The court decided to stand idly by while children are killed, where hospitals are targeted, and even those who are already dead are targeted. This is exactly the position that was clearly understood due to the court's position towards Palestine. As for encouraging member states to adhere to the court, it would be tantamount to being asked to be partners to the crime and to remain silent while these crimes are committed. Most of the leaders and the Israeli war criminals who clearly declare that they are determined to annihilate civilians, to destroy Gaza, and to deal with the Gaza people as human animals, all of those, I say, have citizenships of member states in the court. All of those, I repeat, have citizenships of countries in the court in addition to their own. And this is against the court's statute in rule number 12. So why won't these states who claim to be protecting international justice, why don't they submit them to the court? Why doesn't this apply to ISIS? Because most of the ISIS members are citizens of these states. My answer is because this does not serve the interests of these states that are partners in the crimes committed by the Israeli occupation and those of ISIS. We do not exaggerate when we say that silence by the court towards the crimes in Gaza makes the court a partner in the crime. And it is a partner because it did not move. It was a partner when it divided the Sudan, in destroying Libya, and in failing the victims of Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, and Afghanistan. In conclusion, sir, what I said before are not claims. Those are facts confirmed by history. And therefore, talking about the universality of international criminal law, which the court is supposed to be representing, or that is what it was supposed to have represented, is something that includes an exaggeration. We might be better off admitting that the selective performance and the systematic targeting that now guide the work of the court has ridden the concept of international justice from credibility, and therefore we are now with the justice of the victors, of those who took revenge, and those who financed. Thank you.
May I take it that it is the wish of the General Assembly to conclude its consideration of Agenda Item 74?
Israel is asking for approval.
The Chair recognizes the distinguished delegation of Israel.
Thank you, Chair. We regret that once again the Palestinian delegate has chosen to exploit this esteemed platform and exhaust its valuable time.
You ask
Would the delegate of Israel please indicate whether the statement he is in the process of making constitutes a right of reply?
We want to have a right of reply, Mr. President.
The exercise of the right of reply has been requested. May I remind members that statements in the exercise of the right of reply are limited to 10 minutes for the first intervention and to 5 minutes for the second intervention, and should be made by delegations from their seats. I now call on the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. We regret that once again the Palestinian delegate has chosen to exploit this esteemed platform